Hey, and welcome to episode number 2 of the Taking L's podcast. Dylan, how you feel?
Hey, I'm pumped that people just made it back. Let's go.
Yes.
Episode 2. Come on.
Episode 2. I can't believe they're here.
Man, I'm so excited. We had such a good time recording the first episode, but we're just excited to keep these conversations going, excited to keep doing this. If you're new here, welcome to the Taking L's podcast. We're so glad that you would take time out of your week to join us. We're doing podcasts every Monday, coming out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We're even on YouTube if you want to take a look at our outfits.
Hey, no big deal, but we have, as of today, 8 subscribers on YouTube, okay? So we are blowing up, ladies and gentlemen.
Honestly,
you're lucky that you know us now, because if we hit double digits, I'm too good for all of you.
Oh, man. Can't wait to monetize those subscribers, huh?
I'll tell you
That's the goal of this.
I'm going to start doing mailbags. It's like, is that, I don't know.
All 8 listeners are going to send in. But at the end of the day, I think part of the reason we're doing this is it's just as much for us as it is maybe even for you. And if you're new to Taking L's, the point of this is to just have an honest conversation where we can laugh, where we can talk about life, and we can give you a simple takeaway where you could lead in your life. And leadership is one of the biggest misconceptions in the world. You don't have to be in a position of leadership in order to be a leader. You can lead wherever you're at. And so we believe that through the conversation that we're going to have today, I think it will make everyone laugh, but it will empower everyone just to lead better in their everyday life.
Hey, over the next 30 or so minutes, we want you to obviously chuckle, laugh with us, laugh at us. And at the end of this podcast, hopefully you're inspired to live life to the fullest and just be reminded that there is a leader in you. And today, I'm so excited for this episode number 2, just as monumental as the first one. Today's episode is titled, That's Wrong. And as we get going in this show, in this episode, we always start off with a segment. We do a fun segment. Episode 1, we did a draft. If you haven't voted, go on our Instagram, vote who won. Today, we're going to play a game of right or wrong. Bop, 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 bop. What this is, like adding my own sound effects,
Yeah. Just let Cody do that, man.
Okay, sorry. Nephew Cody, producer in the back there. Thank you for everything you do. He's made my basement where my in-laws stay look like a legit HBO minus studio. So
everyone shout out to Cody. We're so grateful for Cody. We don't pay him. We just give him food and drinks, and he comes and records this podcast with us, and we are so grateful.
True story. I was talking to my mother on the phone earlier, and she's like, "What are you guys doing tonight?" And I said, "The Taking L staff is coming over." And she believed me. So there is that.
Yeah, Mom, we pay the Taking L staff in Azel's Chicken. They'll get a W-2 every 2 weeks.
Yep.
And W-2 doesn't come every 2 weeks.
No, it doesn't. But we start off every single episode we do with a fun segment. And today we're going to be doing a segment called Right or Wrong. We both have 4 fun facts prepared for each other. And we need to guess after that fun fact if it is right or if it is wrong. So, Dylan, are you ready for this segment?
I'm pumped.
Whoever has the most correct will win the segment.
Okay, let's go.
I think that I won last week's draft that we did.
Yeah, the early results from the votes would show that you did just a smidge better.
Yeah, what he's trying to say is that on, like the Instagram vote thing, I was up 88%.
Sometimes with specialty goods, it just attracts a certain group of people. Sometimes I think my night out might have just...
You lost. Here we go. Segment Right or Wrong. Dylan, hit us with the first fun fact. Here we go.
The hottest day ever recorded in the history of the world was 142 degrees Fahrenheit.
I'm going to say that is wrong because I feel like it's actually been hotter.
Okay, so you are right, but you are also wrong.
Okay.
That temperature...
But I get the point, though, because it's a wrong fun fact.
Yeah, you get the point. But the hottest temperature ever was in California, which, swear to God, thank God I live in Seattle. I love Seattle. Great seasons. Was 134.1 degrees in California. I was actually shocked it has not been hotter.
That's incredible.
I was also shocked California had the hottest temperature.
134 degrees. That's what they call winter in hell. Like Dad jokes. You get it. Okay, here goes mine. Here we go. I have 1 point. You haven't had a chance yet. My fun fact. Killer whales are a part of the dolphin family. Right or wrong?
Oh, that is tough. I am actually going to say that is right.
You are correct.
Let's
It
go.
is right. Despite the name killer whale, it is actually the biggest dolphin. Fun fact there for you. Yeah.
I'm a big Free Willy fan, just
love it.
seen it several times. That's the best part of Free Willy. Michael Jackson at the end.
I'll tell you what. Hey, you didn't know that you came to Taking L's that you were going to learn as much as you're learning today.
Hey.
We're a very educational podcast. You get it. Not only do we want to enlarge your perspective, we want to enlarge your brain.
It's quarantine. We all know we're stuck on Netflix all the time, so just get some fun facts out there.
Get some fun facts. Okay, hit me with the second one.
Okay, the next one. A rhino horn is made of hair.
There's no way that can be right. Like, and probably in the inside, but the outside, it's like, no, because rhino horns, people poach them and they're like, you shine them. I'm going to say that is wrong.
It's actually correct.
No way. Rhino
horns are made of hair, bro.
Nephew Cody. Can you believe that?
I cannot.
Wow. Also, Nephew Cody has a mic this week, which is awesome.
I loved it. He gave a response in the fewest words possible. I cannot.
I also feel very demeaning calling you Nephew Cody.
Yeah, we should.
But it also feels.
We need a new name for Cody.
We'll find one.
Tag us on Instagram with a name for Cody.
You're telling me that a rhino horn is made of hair?
Yeah, and apparently it just must be different hair than our hair. I don't know, but it's made of hair.
Wow. That just blew my mind.
Yeah.
I also just filtered through my head so much if I should make a pubic hair joke or not. So I just decided.
Well, you kind of already just said the words, which is disgusting enough.
You get it. Okay.
To be fair, they're made of keratin, which is the same mineral that's found in human hair.
Ooh, look at that.
The fact check.
The fact check. That was very fast and impressive. This is why we have a producer.
I didn't even see you typing back there.
Keep your lies in line.
That, technically, I was correct.
Yeah, we'll give it to you. Okay, here we go. This is a good one. If you didn't know, I currently live in Redmond, Washington, home of Microsoft. Microsoft owns the largest building in the world. Right or wrong?
Wow. That's tough. Isn't the largest building in the world in Dubai?
As far as square footage goes.
Oh, okay.
Height. I should specify.
Okay, great.
Largest square footage overall girth of the building in the world.
Let's see if we can get girth in this podcast like 2 or 3 more times.
I'll work on it.
What do you think?
I'll work on it. It's for you, YouTube.
Yeah. I'm going to say that is true.
Microsoft does not.
Oh, I felt like it was being set up.
That was wrong. But you know who does? Also a company located in the...
Oh, Amazon owns the large... Oh.
Boeing owns the largest building in the world in Everett.
No way.
Yeah,
that is the largest building in the
Washington.
world.
Yeah.
Shout out
the
Boeing.
largest building in the world.
Fun fact, the last time we were recording a podcast, we were hanging out afterwards and we were guessing how much it costs to make a Boeing plane.
Yep.
And it is a lot more than you could ever imagine. Google it.
Google it.
Fun fact.
Google it. Okay, Dylan, you have one. I have one. Here we go. Question number 3. Fun fact number 3.
Because it's terrifying, because it's in the news, because we're worried about a freaking hornet flying in our room the size of a small
murder hornet
that could kill you, a murder hornet is on average 4 inches.
That's right.
It's wrong.
You got me all hyped up with your intro.
I built it up. I'm not going to lie.
Good.
I'm not going to lie.
Hype. I'm a sucker for hype. That's why I buy whatever the display at a grocery store is. I always have to buy it.
You're like a center aisle guy?
Yeah, I'm just a hype guy.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, though. Okay, I was actually surprised by this. They are 2 inches.
Oh.
Which is actually more terrifying because I would rather see something flying the size of a small child into my room so I clearly know that thing needs to just get beat before it ever gets near me. 2 inches, you could totally mistake that for something else. And so now everyone's leaving this podcast more scared than they came. That's awesome.
Yeah,
that
thanks, man.
That wasn't the goal.
Between a virus that's keeping us all in our houses and 4-inch murder hornets that can kill you, I honestly feel like Moses should be showing up any day now.
Hey, man, not to correct you, it's 2 inch.
Sorry, 2-inch hornets. Whatever. Okay, here we go. I still only have one because I got that one wrong. My third fun fact is India has no national language. The country of India has no national language. Is that right or is that wrong?
That's a tough one. I'm going to say that that's correct.
So you're saying it's right?
That's right.
Well, that is wrong. India does have a national language, and it's Hindi.
Hindi?
Hindi is the national language of India.
I was trying to figure out how. That was just my bad.
Yep, that's okay. All right, your last one. I've only gotten one. I'm 1 for 3. Last one. Here we go.
Okay, the last fun fact that I have is San Francisco is the most literate city in the world.
This is the embarrassing part of the podcast. Can you break down literate? Is that what I'm not? I'm pretty sure I'm illiterate. Literate, are you just meaning smart?
Literate would be like the most educated, smartest. Okay. I think that would be the correct definition.
To the public schools in Redmond, Washington for making me look like an idiot. I'm going to say that's right. No, it can't be right. I saw your face. I'm going to say it's right.
It's wrong. Fun fact, Seattle is the most literate city in the world.
No way.
Yeah, so Seattle's the smartest city in the world.
Wow. So for all of you that are listening that live in Seattle right now, way to go. If you live in a different city, since I know we have listeners all over the world.
We got listeners in Texas, bro.
We do. We have listeners in Phoenix, Arizona.
I could promise you Texas is, okay.
Yeah.
Too far.
Yeah. Texas. I'll probably offend some of the Texas listeners here in a little bit.
I love Texas barbecue, though.
So do I.
Big fan. I've never even been. I just feel like it's probably really good. There's a place in Seattle that calls itself Texas barbecue. That's pretty good.
Yikes. Okay. So on that note, I got that one wrong. So I've only gotten one. So you can win it right here.
Okay.
The Grand Canyon is 277 miles long. The Grand Canyon is 277 miles long. That's a lot of miles, Dylan.
Have you been to the Grand Canyon before?
I have multiple times. It's beautiful.
I've never been. And
creation.
I going to say that that's correct.
Wow. With the very last fun fact, you have answered the question correct. It is right. The Grand Canyon is exactly 277 miles long.
Let's go. I'm pumped. I got to win.
You did. You got to win. I won episode 1. We'll kind of just keep tally every so episodes. We'll probably make each other do something dumb or something. But that's going to move us to our next segment, which, as you know, here on Taking L's, we love to laugh at ourselves. And we love to do, after our fun segment at the beginning, we love to do an L of the week. What does that mean? Well, taking an L is a term that you can find on most pickup basketball courts in the country.
I have taken some of those before.
You get it. And taking L, or you took an L, is a way of saying you lost. Okay, yes. You just lost. Take this L, eat this L. Basically, it's just
Has anyone ever told you to eat this L?
I've been through some hard times in my life, Dylan.
Maybe on the next pod we could talk through when someone said, "Hey, bro, eat this L."
I've been on a lot of basketball courts where I've lost, so I've had a lot of mean things said to me. But the L of the week is just something where we can laugh at you or I about a loss that we have taken within the past week. And I have another one. I have a feeling I'll be having a lot of the L's of the week because I take a lot of L's. But I have one. And the other day, we're getting ready to go to the grocery store, which during quarantine, it's really the highlight of the week. Would you agree with that?
Honestly, just anything outside. Like, to be fair, like, I go take my dog out and picking up my, you get it. Like, that even is like, I'm like, this is awesome.
Yeah, I get to leave the house.
Yeah.
There is something so joyful about just constants, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
In quarantine, you know, every week you are going to need to go to the grocery store. So my wife and I, we do these big grocery store trips, and we put my 6-month son in the car, Ocean Wild Oliver.
He's the best.
Shout out. And we'll stay in the car, myself and my son Ocean, and my amazing wife Carly will go inside and go grocery shopping. And of course, we make a list, but we're not like thorough list takers. Do you know like every item you're going to get from the grocery store? Do you write it down?
I don't write anything down. Maddie is the writer downer, and I just go hungry and just pull stuff off the shelves.
I was just with my in-laws this last weekend. I went to the grocery store with my mother-in-law, who's amazing, and I love her. And I drove her insane at the grocery store because I don't write anything down. I kind of just think about something and I go there, and we take probably twice or triple the amount of time at the grocery store as we need to.
You're a hype guy.
Just going back and forth. Yeah, I'm a hype guy.
You're like, this looks good.
But we're just going back and forth as I'm creating recipes in my head. But we're at the grocery store last week. I'm with Carly, I'm with Ocean, and we don't necessarily write everything down. We just kind of write what we want to eat for each meal and then just get it kind of why we're there. Okay. So we were doing this like Japanese pasta dish, right? We're going to make it for that night. We're getting some other stuff for the week as well. And we're in the car, and Carly asked me before we left, she said, hey, will you check the refrigerator and see if we have coconut aminos?
AKA soy sauce.
AKA soy sauce. Coconut aminos is the healthy version of soy sauce. My favorite joke is that my wife and I are modern day hippies. I try to get that in there. Low-key modern day hippies as much as possible.
Well, you're 2 for 2.
Yeah, you get
2 episodes.
So coconut aminos, it's like the healthy soy sauce. It's soy sauce, but without soy because soy is not actually good for you. So there's that as you're learning about the Grand Canyon, folks. And she asked me before we leave, she says, hey, check the refrigerator to see if we have coconut aminos because that is important for this Japanese noodle dish that we're making that night. So we get in the car. She says, did you check the refrigerator? Dylan, do you think I remember to check the refrigerator?
I'm going to guess no.
No, I did not remember
of course,
to check the refrigerator. So I say to her, when she asked me, I'm like, yeah, we have them. We for sure have them. She's like, are you positive that we have coconut aminos because we just used them recently and you run through the bottle really quick, you know, splash, splash, splash. It's like empty basically.
Yeah.
Coconut aminos at our local Trader Joe's are $2.99, okay?
It's pretty cheap.
This is not a massive financial purchase.
Yeah, no, not at all.
But I decided in that moment to double down on my wrong. I made a wrong decision by not checking the refrigerator.
Yep.
Okay? Yep. So then we're now in the car, and she asked me if we have them, and I don't honestly remember, but I kind of thought, I remember seeing the bottle in there. So I said, you know what? Yes, Carly, we have coconut aminos. Don't worry about it. She's like, are you sure? I said, yes, girl, I'm sure. I did not say that. I was like, yes, I think we're sure. Like my voice started quivering because I get scared of her sometimes. And so she goes into the grocery store. She gets everything we need. She does not buy coconut aminos. You want to know why? Because I said we had some in the refrigerator. So we get home from the grocery store. We unpack everything, which is a big deal. In our house, it takes forever. We unpack everything, and we're starting to make dinner that night, our Japanese summer salad. It's delicious. Find the recipe on my cooking Instagram. Like, I don't have one of those, you know.
Yeah,
trying to plug.
You should,
things.
though.
And she goes in the refrigerator, and Dylan, she pulls out a completely empty bottle of coconut aminos.
Oh, no.
You said we had some coconut aminos.
And she threw the bottle at you.
Boom, splattered it. I still have stitches.
Boom,
splash. She did not. My wife is more of an internal processor.
She's an eternal processor. She really thinks about everything with an eternal perspective,
no, she's an internal processor.
Oh, okay.
Meaning if she's mad, I really won't know about it for like 6 days later.
That's probably worse.
That's when she's going to finally talk about it. No, but it actually ruined our entire night. And I realized that if I simply admitted even my potential of being wrong in the car, I didn't totally know, right? It was kind of like that game we were just playing of right or wrong. All of those things we said, there was a 50-50 chance on if we were going to get it correct, if it was right, or if it was wrong. Well, all I had to do was literally just admit my potential of being wrong, and our entire night could have been saved. She was in an attitude. She really wanted this salad or this pasta dish that we were going to do. And it did have a major effect on our night. And my simple admittance of being wrong in the car could have changed the outlook of our entire night. Wow. It could have saved a nice night together. It could have gave us some more quality time. It could have added to, we could have had a conversation that night that we really needed to have. We could have had some physical quality time that we really needed to have. But, if your wife's upset, that's not happening at all. So you can throw that out of the window. And so just me being hesitant to admit I was wrong had a ripple effect for the rest of my night. And tonight, our conversation tonight, wherever you're at, whatever
it's
day
tonight
it is,
here, so
it's tonight here. This episode, our conversation is all about being wrong. And really the fact that it is okay to be wrong and how much power there is in admitting when you're wrong. I think just the simple fact of admitting when you're wrong can do three major things. I think that it can save relationships, it can save yourself, and it can save lives.
Wow.
I'm going to say that again. Just by admitting that you're wrong, I think can save relationships, save yourself, and save lives. Think about how many marriages that are out there, how many dating relationships that are out there, even friendships, good friendships that are ruined over one person not being able to admit the fact, hey, I think that my motives were wrong, my perspective was wrong, or simply what I said in that moment was wrong. Dillon, how has this affected your relationships, or how has this even played a part, this ability to either admit that you're wrong or moments that you've had a really hard time doing this? How has that affected relationships for you?
Yeah, I mean, the easy one to speak to now would be my marriage.
Yeah.
And I don't want to assume everyone's married, but I think you could apply this to any relationship. And one of the biggest things that comes into play with admitting that you're wrong is pride.
Yep.
And I would say one of the things that I am terrible at is being prideful. I don't like to be wrong. I don't like to lose. I'm really competitive. It was actually hilarious. We were watching The Last Dance. This is so embarrassing. And my wife was like so intrigued with how
The Last Dance, the documentary.
Yeah, if you haven't watched it, the documentary about Michael Jordan, you have to watch it on ESPN. My wife was so intrigued. She loves watching it, by the way, which is so fun. We get to watch it together. And she was so intrigued by how competitive Michael Jordan was. And I compared my level of competitiveness to Michael Jordan. No, you didn't. And I was like, I mean, I'm not close to that, but I get so competitive, I could understand. And she's like, no, you can't. You literally can't understand. But my pride it can be such an issue sometimes.
Yeah.
And one of the greatest pieces of advice I've ever heard in the past we've been married for 2 years, so not like acting like, I really just am learning from other people.
Totally.
Is be the first to admit that you are wrong.
Yeah.
When you're in the middle of a fight, when you're in the middle of being frustrated, be the first to admit that you're wrong and be the first to say, I'm sorry.
Do you know what admitting you're wrong is called asking for forgiveness, right?
So good.
I think that asking for forgiveness, all that truly is the admittance.
Yo, somebody help us.
Cody.
Seattle's the most...
Admittance.
Seattle's the most literate city in the world, but we can't say admittance.
What asking for forgiveness is simply admitting that you were in the wrong. I think that if you want to be a good friend, if you want to be a good boyfriend, a good girlfriend, if you want to be a good husband, a good wife, whatever role you find yourself in, I think one of the things I've always heard my dad say, my dad's an amazing guy, is you always want to win, speaking of being competitive, you always want to win the race to asking for forgiveness first.
It's so true. It's so true.
Even if, and I love kind of this thing that I said, I love this thing I said, going back to earlier of what I said of, even if you're potentially wrong, I think this is talking specifically to marriages. Even if you could have potentially been in the wrong, even if you could have potentially had the wrong motive, right? I think the two biggest things that we need to kind of look over our life and comb through is, do I have a wrong perspective? Do I have a wrong motive? Or was I just in the wrong?
Totally.
Was something that I did, was it not agreeable?
Yeah.
Because even if people don't agree with what you did, for the most part, that means you are in the wrong. And so winning the race to ask for forgiveness, and even also just being okay to ask for forgiveness, even if you had the potential of being wrong. I think that our ability to just say, hey, you know what I did, or even how I think, that's wrong. That will be the biggest thing in saving important relationships in your life. I also think, Dillon, that is one of the biggest things in saving ourselves from a lifestyle of being stagnant.
Can I point something out that I thought you said that was so amazing? You said the potential of being wrong.
Yep.
I mean, how many times do any of us really go, you know what? I was 1,000% wrong in that situation. We could look back in moments of our lives that we know we were wrong. But there's
every time I make a fantasy football trade, I go, I was 1,000% wrong in that, because I get made fun of for every fantasy football trade I make ever. But there's that. Sorry, keep going.
Just a little side note.
Something brilliant, and I just had to get that off my chest.
I lost it. No, I'm kidding. But I think that there's something about you're never going to truly, I think, fully admit that you're wrong. Yeah. You could look back at some of the most wrong moments in your life and just find that 5%, that 10% where you could justify it, where you could talk about how it was okay. You could find reasons to try to tell yourself that you were right.
Yeah.
So I love that you used the potential of being wrong.
Yeah.
That even the fact that conflict was caused as a result of what you did means something was done wrong.
Hey.
And like, you got to see, like, where there's smoke, there's fire, right?
Come on.
Like, you've just started something in a friendship. You've just started something in a work relationship. You've just started something in your marriage. And you just have to be a big enough person to go, something is there. My wife just shut down. I don't think I did anything wrong.
Yep.
Like for me, like, if my wife all of a sudden starts to get quiet, not to like out my wife, but like if my wife starts to get quiet, I instantly have to go, okay, you just said something.
Yeah.
You just alluded to something. What was it? And I think being able to take a couple steps back and go, I see something that potentially could be wrong there. Am I just being a big enough person to address that?
I think it's also just a pretty perspective enlarging idea to fully embrace the fact that it's not wrong to be wrong.
Exactly.
We are all going to be wrong. Tomorrow, when you live your day, from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to bed at night, let me tell you something. You will be wrong.
Yes.
I will do something tomorrow. I did something today that was wrong. It was not right. It was not the best thing I could have done. Again, it was either I could have done something out of a wrong perspective. I could have said something out of a wrong motive. I could have even just said the thing that was not agreeable. It was wrong. It is not wrong to be wrong. That does not mean that you are a terrible person. That does not mean your relationship is ending. And I think if we just embrace that idea as men and women and kind of just say, hey, I'm going to be wrong in life. So when I am, it's not this massive deal. We don't need to even celebrate that I'm wrong, because guess what? I'm going to be wrong again.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is just another moment of me being a human that makes mistakes. I'm wrong. I'm sorry, please forgive me, or even a conversation with yourself. And this is where I kind of want to pivot the conversation is, I think that even just admitting that you're wrong, again, it can save ourselves from living a stagnant life. I think that if we hold on to this idea, right, that we're always right, or the perspectives we used to have, or every idea that we have is the right idea, I think that will cement us. It will cement our perspective where we're at, and it will stop us from being able to actually grow as a person. What do you think of that, Dillon?
I think it's so beautiful. And I think you can look back in moments in your life. And I think for a lot of us, we can look back at moments and go, I changed something and that helped me. Or I chose to not change something and that hurt me. And maybe you then later down the road chose to change.
Yep.
Or maybe later down the road, you chose not to change. And oftentimes it's just being in a moment and recognizing something is wrong here. And oftentimes when you're wrong, you're probably hurting yourself more than you're actually hurting the other person. Because the other person might just go move on and might just go be in another relationship, might go be in another friendship. But at the end of the day, you still are you.
Yeah.
And you haven't changed. I don't know if you could maybe speak to this, but is there anything specifically that you could think of that you changed the way you were doing? You were doing something wrong and you changed, and that actually saved yourself or helped yourself significantly.
Yeah, the first thing that comes to my mind is how I ate and how I viewed food. That I'm the health. I'm not this big workout guy or anything like that. I'm the last thing of that. If you know me, you're probably chuckling even from hearing me say the term workout. The only time I use like workout is when I'm like talking to friends about their relationships. Like, I hope that works out, because I don't use it in a physical meaning at all. But I used to, as kind of I'm 29 years old. I turned 30 in October. In September 1st, I'll be married for 5 years. So kind of before my marriage, as any young 20-something guy, I ate like crap. I kind of viewed health food as gross and goofy and all that stuff. And so getting married, my wife in particular, has really helped me change my perspective of food and healthy lifestyle and eating clean, eating organic, what you're putting in your body really matters.
Yeah.
So that was one of the biggest things that I've been wrong, that I've seen such a benefit from. And that's kind of a big, easy example, if you will. But I can think of even a couple other things, and I won't dive into the details because I know we want to keep kind of the conversation going, but I just look back over my life and I think about how much I have grown from the perspective I had from 4 years ago, even 2 years ago, even a year ago, 10 years ago. I think that if I could take you back in time, let's say 3 years, right? And you agreed with everything that you did 3 years ago, I would question if you have grown as a person.
Wow.
If you agree with every single way you have voted or who you voted for, if you agree with every single idea that you have had, or even kind of big decision that you have made in life, or even kind of your strong core beliefs and things, I would really question, are you growing? Are you enlarging your perspective? Are you even holding on to what you were taught? And are you even afraid of even admitting the things that you're holding on to are potentially wrong? I think one of the greatest definitions of personal growth is being a person that is that has the ability to quickly realize what I did, or how I thought, or even just the person I was a couple years ago was not totally right for who I want to be right now.
Yeah. That's so good. And I think a lot of us, our goal is that we would get better and better as life goes on.
Yeah.
And I think one of the ways that we can get better and better to save ourselves, when you talk about saving yourselves, it doesn't have to mean necessarily saving ourselves from something detrimental.
Totally.
It could just be saving ourselves from being the same person we are right now in our late 20s to being that same person in my late 40s or my late 50s, is being able to see something and go, do you know what? That's just not who I'm going to be.
Yeah.
I need to change that. And being a big enough person to self-assess. And one thing I want to add when it comes to ourselves, sometimes we are the worst judge of ourselves. Sometimes good and sometimes really bad.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it comes to, some of us are married, and so maybe you have that person and a spouse, but I'm not always going to say that that's going to be your spouse. Sometimes it's a best friend. Sometimes it's a coworker. Sometimes it's a mentor. It's a person that you respect in your life. To be able to go to them and have people that will call out when you're wrong.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes, in order to save yourself from the wrong that you were doing, it actually starts with someone else initiating that conversation.
Yep.
And you being able to go like, do you know what? There's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we can't just point it out in ourselves.
Or even looking back at methods or routines that worked for you at one point may not work for you any longer.
Totally.
And so was it a bad method then? Was it a bad routine then? No. But for right now, that method or that routine is wrong. And that is okay to admit and pivot and use that to to grow from and to change from.
Yeah.
Let me use a really, really elementary example of growth, right? I have a 6-month-old son who's growing like what's that? A leaf? Growing like I don't know. He's growing like crazy, okay?
He is getting really big. He's so cute.
He's getting big and he grows every single day.
Yeah.
He's growing, okay? So because he's growing and his body is literally physically growing, he's now 6 months. There are 4-month clothes that no longer fit him because he has grown. Are those clothes bad? No. But are they good for right now? No, those clothes are wrong for him because they literally do not fit him anymore.
That's so good.
If we are growing, there are things that we have, methods, perspectives, thoughts, routines. I'll stop it at that. But there are things that should not be able to fit us anymore if we are continuing to have this perspective of kind of admitting that some things are wrong, and moving forward from them. Admitting you're wrong, it saves relationships. It can save yourself from a stagnant life. It can also save lives. And this is kind of where we want to land this podcast, is even kind of just addressing, again, if you are listening to us on podcasts and you have not looked closely at our Taking L's profile picture that we have. I'm an African-American man. Dillon is white. Dillon is Caucasian. And I think this idea of being wrong, we've talked to in a lot of areas, but one of the biggest areas that I think us as Americans can be wrong is wrong about people groups. And that's kind of where we want to land this plane, even in the midst of our country right now. And when we are recording this podcast, if you have at all been on social media or watched the news at all in the month of May, you have probably heard of Ahmaud Arbery, a young African-American man who lost his life in Georgia for going on a jog at the hands of 2 or 3 white men who thought he could have potentially been doing something wrong, or at the end of the day thought he didn't belong in their neighborhood. We actually, Dillon, we recorded this podcast already. A couple weeks ago, we recorded this podcast. We're going to have episode 2 up literally on this topic. It was essentially this. And because of what happened, we want to re-record this podcast to be able to specifically talk about the climate of our country and talk about how right now there's a lot of things being said. There's a lot of people even having to check themselves. And we wanted to just take the last couple minutes of this episode of Taking L's to talk about, how have you been wrong about people groups? How have you been wrong about Asians? How have you been wrong about Black people in the Black community? How have you been wrong about the other Democratic Party? How have you been wrong about the LGBTQ community? That was a massive one for me. I have made so many assumptions over the LGBTQ community. One of my closest friends from work and someone who is now very, very special to us fits into that community. And just being her friend has opened my eyes to my assumptions, my bias, my prejudice, and the fact that I have been so wrong about the life that they live, the things that they go through. And so I'll pass it over to you, Dillon, but that's just something that I think we cannot talk about admitting you're wrong and do an episode titled That's Wrong without asking the question, in the climate of our country today, and I say this even fighting tears back, of we have to admit, every single person in this country has to admit that we have probably at some point in our life, if you aren't right now, at some point in your life, you have been wrong about a person group or a people group. And so I will get off my high horse. But I just think it just starts with simply admitting the fact that you have had the potential of being wrong.
It's not a high horse at all. You shouldn't say that. Like, it's real life. And
I was going to have some beautiful transition to pass it back over. And my emotions took over. And so I didn't have the awesome. Also, we're only episode 2, so I'm still kind of learning this podcast thing. But I was going to just pass it over to you beautifully and seamless. And then my emotions, because this is so real for me. I watched on my phone a man that looks just like me get shot down in broad daylight. And I have every day since his murder was in the end of February. I saw this video for the first time 7 days ago, which let's kind of process that. Where has this video been? But for 7 days now, not a day has gone by that I haven't had to process the fact that someone who looks very, very similar to me, I watched him get shot down as he was going on a jog. And so even just as we're talking about this, I can't help but just have those emotions come back up. They are not gone. They have not diminished. They have not calmed down by any means. This is a real thing for me. I know there's so many listeners right now that are even trying to process this. You may be able to process it with beautiful words. You may be able to process it with no words. However you're processing right now, that is okay. I want you to know there's this little guy on a podcast that is with you and for you. If you want to talk about it, need to talk about it, find people that will listen. If you want to process it literally by yourself in a dark closet, do that. Whatever you need to do to process this climate that we are in, please feel the ability to do that in whatever that looks like for you, if that's with tears, with anger, whatever. But know that we are trying to just help the conversation of this prejudice, of this admitting that you're wrong happen for the 8 subscribers that follow us on YouTube. I'm done talking, Dylan.
No, it's tough for me because I think we've been talking about stuff like this for too long.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I had like thoughts as we were going to get to this part. And I think even just seeing you get just emotional, like hurts me as a friend.
Yeah.
And I think on this podcast, I think it's these conversations are really between me and you, and it just happens to be recording it for other people. I know I said this to you. I haven't said this to you really in person. I said it to you over text, but I'm sorry. And part of a good friendship is admitting that you're wrong. And, you know, Braylon called me about 4 years ago, and it was sadly a similar situation like this. There's injustice happening in our country, and another young black man in our country was killed, and Braylon was hurting, and Braylon's one of my best friends, and he had voiced his hurt and his pain to me. And I never texted Braylon to ask how he was doing, how he was processing, how that could be affecting him. And I remember he called me probably about a week later and literally just told me like, hey man, you're one of my best friends and you never asked me how I could be doing and how this could be affecting me. And I remember in that moment going, I don't want to do that again, and I don't want to be that friend. And this past week it happened again. And this past week I thought about texting you multiple times. And this past week I thought about, I don't want to like pick at a wound. I don't want to like poke where it hurts. And like I knew that there was hurt and pain there, but yet never sent a text and never made a call. And I do want to say to you, like, I'm sorry. I was very wrong. And if I could say to anybody listening that looks like me, that is white, I think, can I just say, I don't think we understand when it comes to things like this, how wrong we are and how often we are wrong. And that we need to have conversations and have more conversations. And I think something that I am learning, I am on a journey with this, I'm just admitting I'm wrong on a podcast, is that...
Which is incredible of you, by the way.
Yeah, we can cut it later if we need to. I'm kidding. Is that it's better to, and I've learned this from Braylon because he's basically said it to me, is it's better to say something than to not say anything at all.
Yeah.
And I was texting another friend about this situation, and he said a couple things to me that really just were kind of mind-blowing in some ways, and they probably shouldn't have been mind-blowing. But he said a couple things. He said, silence is consent.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say to every single white person that is listening to this, if when a situation of injustice happens in our country because of a people group being a minority in our community, because of what they look like, because of what social group they fit into. It doesn't have to just be an ethnicity thing. It could be all kinds of different people group things. If you are quiet when injustice happens, you are wrong. And by the way, being vocal does not just mean posting on Instagram, and it does not just mean putting it on social media. It doesn't just mean calling a friend when they're hurt. That might be part of it. Do your thing. But being quiet when a family member at a barbecue says something that is racist, when no one else may see you respond to it.
Yep.
But can I tell you that if you are quiet in that situation, you are wrong. And can I just be honest? I've been quiet in situations like that, and it was years ago, and I look back and I regretted it. And when the situation came up again, I was like, I will not be quiet. Then I haven't been quiet since. And it's in those private moments that we can't be quiet, because that is wrong.
Yeah.
And if I can also just say, the other thing that person texted me was that you will have a platform and the ability to speak to something that's just different than my platform. This person, by the way, was not white that was texting. And it reminded me that I have to speak up when I see something, that I have to speak up when something happens. And I will be honest and say that I have not spoken up enough. And that is wrong. And I think for a lot of us, specifically, I'm just speaking to white people that are listening to this, I'm probably going to guess that most of you that are listening have not spoken up enough.
Yeah.
And by the way, just look at that like we've talked about everything else. Take it as a moment to say, do you know what? I was wrong in that.
Yep.
But I'm going to work on making this right.
Going back to what I said earlier, it's not wrong to be wrong. And I love, Dylan, you just gave a beautiful example of literally doing what this whole episode talks about doing. And that's just having the ability to admit to when you're wrong. One of the things we do here is we like to give we call it an as you leave, which is kind of just a thought to think about, maybe something if you want and if you're willing to apply to your life for the week. These are things that we try to do in our personal lives. But the as you leave today is kind of just think about, and I don't care what age demographic you are. I don't care what style of life that you live, what religion you are, what skin color you are. If you woke up in a broken down house or a mansion this morning when you woke up. But I want you to ask yourself, what people groups or people group have I been wrong about? We all have prejudice. We all have bias. We even all have assumptions. And I think it would be really cool for us to even today, tomorrow, this week, as you are living your amazing life that you're living, imagine even for those of you that are a part of a family, imagine how well you can lead your family this week if you just sit down and say, hey, you know what? I asked myself a question. What people group am I wrong about? And I answered it with X, Y, and Z. Think about how well you can lead your family through a moment like this with them seeing you. I'm looking at the little camera we have for YouTube, and I'm looking at fathers right now. And I'm even kind of thinking you as a father, or even you as a son to some parents, just kind of saying, hey, I have been wrong about, I've asked myself what people groups I've been wrong about. This is what came to my mind right away. I just want to share that. I wanted to ask you for forgiveness, and maybe for you to ask yourself the same thing. And I just think the trickle down effect that could have for your sphere. Can we change the world? Probably not. Can we change our family? Absolutely. Can we 100%. Change our friends? Can we change our sphere? Can we change our circle? There is so much systematic racism and so many things wrong in our country. Are you and I going to be able to fix that? Probably not. Let's just be honest. Dylan and I are not the ones that are going to rewrite laws and do all of these things on the floor of the White House or where they make decisions at the Senate, wherever it is. That's probably not our role. But one of the things I can do is I can talk to my friends. I can speak up in the atmospheres and the settings that I do have a chance to lead in, and I can speak up in those. And that's exactly what you can do as well. Just by admitting you're wrong, it can save relationships, it can save yourself, and it can save lives. I'm thinking of my friend Ahmad today, Think about if these men admitted that their assumption was wrong, his life, he would still be breathing and still be functioning as an alive 26-year-old black man on this country if they just admitted the fact that they were wrong, that their assumption was wrong. We love you so much.
Thank
you
for
for listening. This has been a longer episode, but we'll see you next week. Subscribe, do all those things. It doesn't even feel right to really dive into all of it on that note. But hey, we love you so much, and let this episode actually impact and affect your perspective.
Please.
If not, you just wasted 50 minutes of your time, and that's not the goal for you or for anyone. We love you. See you next week on Taking L's.
Talk to you later.